Picture a small, rectangular object resting in the palm of your hand. It is light, perhaps weighing no more than 5 grams. It is smooth to the touch, cool against the skin, often shimmering with a holographic finish or a sleek, matte minimalism. It is a modern totem of power, a piece of plastic that commands the movement of goods, services, and labor across the entire globe. We treat it as a tool of convenience, a bridge between our desires and our reality. But for millions of people, this innocuous object is not a bridge. It is a meticulously engineered cage. We are talking, of course, about the credit card. And specifically, we are here to dissect a single catastrophic error, a mistake so subtle, so psychologically designed, and so mathematically devastating that it can turn a temporary financial stumble into a lifetime of servitude. This mistake does not scream, it whispers. It does not look like a disaster, it looks like a helping hand. This mistake is the minimum payment trap, and it is the single most profitable mechanism in the consumer banking industry. To understand why this mistake never lets go, we have to look past the plastic and into the machinery of the system itself. We have to strip away the marketing, the rewards points, and the cashback promises to look at the raw, cold arithmetic that beats like a heart at the center of the credit economy. Imagine a character. Let's call him Arthur. Arthur is responsible. He has a job, a car, and dreams of a comfortable life. One day, Arthur decides he needs an upgrade. Maybe his laptop dies, or his car needs a transmission repair, or perhaps he simply wants to take a vacation he feels he deserves after a grueling year. He swipes the card. The terminal beeps. The transaction is approved. In that split second, a rush of dopamine floods his brain. The problem is solved. The item is acquired. The pain of payment is deferred. This is the magic trick of credit. It separates the pleasure of acquisition from the pain of parting with money. 30 days pass. The statement arrives. Arthur opens the envelope or clicks the notification on his phone, and he braces himself. He knows he spent $5,000. He expects to see a demand for $5,000. But the bank, in its infinite apparent mercy, does not ask for $5,000. In bold, friendly letters, the statement says, minimum payment due, $125. Arthur exhales. The tension leaves his shoulders. $125? He can do that. That's easy. That's a dinner out. That's a grocery run. He pays the $125, feeling a sense of accomplishment. He has met his obligation. He is in good standing. The bank thanks him. He goes on with his life, believing he is managing his debt.
This moment right here, this feeling of relief, is the trap. It is a psychological phenomenon known as anchoring. The bank has anchored Arthur's expectation to the low number, the minimum, making the total balance feel abstract and distant. But by paying only the minimum, Arthur has just stepped into quicksand. He hasn't paid off the debt. He has simply paid a cover charge to keep the debt alive. Let's look at the horror of the math involved here, because this is where the script turns from a drama into a tragedy. Credit card interest is not calculated annually or monthly. It is calculated daily. It is a living, breathing creature that eats while you sleep. They take your annual percentage rate, let's say it is a standard 20%, and they divide it by 365. This creates a daily periodic rate. Every single day, the bank looks at your balance, applies that tiny percentage, and adds it to what you owe. When Arthur paid his $125, he thought he was chipping away at the mountain. But on a $5,000 balance at 20% interest, the interest charges for that month alone are roughly $83. This means that out of his $125 payment, $83 vanished instantly into the bank's profit column. Only $42 actually went toward the principal of the loan. Think about that visual. Arthur shovels 125 pounds of dirt out of a hole, but while he isn't looking, the bank pours 83 pounds of dirt back in. He is working, he is paying, he is sacrificing, but the hole remains almost exactly the same depth. If Arthur continues this pattern, paying only the minimum every single month, never missing a payment, being the perfect customer, do you know how long it will take him to pay off that $5,000 purchase? It won't take 2 years. It won't take 5 years. It will take over 22 years. 22 years. In that time, Arthur will have aged from a young man to a middle-aged one. He might have changed careers, gotten married, perhaps divorced, seen children born and sent them off to college. And that laptop he bought, it is long dead, buried in a landfill somewhere, obsolete technology from a bygone era. But the ghost of that laptop is still haunting his bank account. And the cost? By the time he makes that final payment 2 decades later, he will have paid nearly $11,000 in total. He paid for the item more than twice over. He bought a laptop for himself, and he bought a second, more expensive laptop for the bank executive who designed the algorithm.
This is why the mistake never lets go. It is designed to be sticky. The banks call people who pay their bills in full every month deadbeats. That is the actual industry term. A deadbeat is unprofitable because they pay no interest. They use the system for free. Arthur, however, is a revolver. He revolves his debt from month to month. To the bank, Arthur is the golden goose. They want him to stay in debt. They incentivize the minimum payment because it maximizes the lifespan of the loan. But the nightmare scenario we just described assumes Arthur never uses the card again. But life is not a vacuum. Life is messy. 6 months into this 22-year odyssey, Arthur's car breaks down again, or he has a medical emergency, or he loses his job. He has to swipe the card again. Now the balance jumps from nearly $5,000 up to $7,000. The minimum payment adjusts slightly, but it stays deceptively low. The anchor resets. Arthur thinks, I can handle this. But now the interest charges are higher than the principal reduction. He has entered a state of negative amortization, or barely breaking even. The water is rising faster than he can bail it out. This is where the psychological toll begins to manifest. When you carry this kind of debt, it changes the way you view the world. It adds a layer of gray to every sunset. It adds a frantic undertone to every quiet moment. You are physically free. You can walk down the street, you can sit in a park, but your future labor has already been sold. You are working today to pay for the mistakes of yesterday, which means you cannot save for tomorrow. The minimum payment mistake robs you of your most valuable asset, opportunity. When an opportunity arises, an investment, a chance to start a business, a chance to move to a new city, you cannot take it. You are tethered. You are weighed down by the past. The credit card, which was sold to you as a symbol of freedom and possibility, has become a set of shackles. Furthermore, this mistake compounds on your credit report. As your balance stays high, your credit utilization ratio, the amount of credit you are using versus the amount you have available, remains maxed out. This lowers your credit score. A lower credit score means that if you try to buy a house or a car, you will be charged a higher interest rate. The mistake on the credit card bleeds out and infects every other aspect of your financial life. It is a contagion. So how does one escape? How do we break a cycle that is mathematically designed to be unbreakable? The first step is a radical shift in mindset. You must stop viewing the minimum payment as a payment at all. You must view it as a threat. When you see that number on your statement, you must recognize it for what it is: the bank's attempt to keep you in chains for 20 years.
The only way to kill the monster is to starve it. You have to attack the principal. This requires a strategy known as the avalanche method or the snowball method. But regardless of the specific tactic, the core principle is the same. You must pay more than the minimum, even $50 more, even $20 more. Let's go back to Arthur. If he adds just $50 a month to his payment, paying $175 instead of $125, he cuts the repayment time from 22 years down to roughly 5 years. He saves thousands of dollars in interest. $50 a month buys him 17 years of his life back. That is the power of aggressive repayment. It is the only sword capable of slaying the beast of compound interest. However, the industry is evolving. They know consumers are getting smarter, so they are introducing new traps. Buy now, pay later schemes are the new mutation of this old virus. They break purchases down into 4 easy payments, bypassing the credit card mental hurdle entirely. But the principle is the same, fracturing your income into tiny, manageable slivers until you have no whole paycheck left. You die a death by 1,000 cuts. We must also discuss the concept of residual interest, often called trailing interest. This is the final insult, the hand reaching out from the grave. Let's say Arthur finally saves up enough cash to pay off his $5,000 balance in full. He writes the check, he sends it in. The balance reads 0. He celebrates. He opens a bottle of wine. But next month, he gets a bill. It's for $40. He's confused. I paid it off, he screams. But he forgets the daily nature of the beast. Between the time the statement was issued and the time his payment arrived, the interest was still accumulating, day by day, hour by hour. That $40 is the interest that accrued in the interim. If he ignores it, thinking it's an error, he gets hit with a late fee. Then that late fee gathers interest. The cycle tries to restart itself. The mistake never lets go unless you are vigilant until the very last penny is accounted for. The narrative of the credit card companies is one of lifestyle. They sell you the destination, the beach, the hotel, the dining experience. They never show you the journey back. They never show you the years of grinding work required to pay for that one weekend in paradise if you fall into the minimum payment trap. They are selling you a time machine that only goes backward. You trade your future time for a present moment.
It is crucial to understand that this system is not broken. It is working exactly as intended. The gleaming skyscrapers in the financial districts of New York, London, and Hong Kong were built, in part, on the interest paid by people like Arthur. They were built on the backs of minimum payments. Every marble floor and mahogany desk in those banks is funded by the gap between the minimum payment and the actual interest accrued. To master this script, to flip the narrative, you must treat a credit card not as an extension of your income, but as a method of transaction only. If you do not have the cash in the bank to cover the purchase today, you cannot afford it. This sounds old-fashioned, it sounds rigid, but in a world designed to liquefy your assets and turn them into revenue streams for corporations, rigidity is your only defense. You have to be the anomaly. You have to be the deadbeat that the banks hate. You have to use their rewards, take their cash back, and pay the balance to 0 every single month without fail. You must exploit the system before it exploits you. Because the moment you slip, the moment you justify that first minimum payment, the gears of the trap begin to turn. The silence of the debt is what makes it so dangerous. It doesn't bark. It doesn't break down like a car. It sits quietly on a server, calculating, multiplying, growing. It is a mathematical cancer. And like any health crisis, early detection is key. If you are currently in the trap, if you are currently paying only the minimum, you are in a state of emergency. You may not feel the adrenaline, but the house is on fire. You must cut expenses. You must sell things. You must work extra hours. You must do whatever is required to throw massive buckets of water on that fire. Because every day you wait, the fire gets hotter, the math gets harder, the climb gets steeper. There is a cinematic quality to becoming debt-free. It is the third act of the movie where the hero breaks the chains. The moment you make that final payment, the real final payment, covering the residual interest, and the balance sits at 0 and stays at 0, the silence changes. It is no longer the heavy, oppressive silence of impending doom. It is the silence of peace. It is the silence of freedom. The credit card is a tool, sharp and dangerous. Like a scalpel, it can be used to perform miracles of convenience and security. Or, if mishandled, it can bleed you dry. The difference lies entirely in the hand that holds it and the mind that controls it. Do not let the shiny plastic fool you. Do not let the low numbers on the statement seduce you. Remember Arthur. Remember the 22 years. Remember the laptop that rotted away while he was still paying for it. Do not make his mistake. Reject the anchor. Reject the minimum. Attack the principle. Reclaim your future. The world wants you to be indebted. The economy is structured to keep you walking on a treadmill, running hard but going nowhere, powering the lights for someone else's castle. Step off the treadmill. Walk on solid ground. Own your labor. Own your money. Own your life. This is a battle for your time on this earth. Do not sell it for 20% APR. The mistake only holds on as long as you keep feeding it. Stop feeding the beast. Let it starve. And in its place, build a life that actually belongs to you. Subscribe for more financial insights.